Good morning, students. Welcome to the poem A Tiger in the Zoo from the textbook First Flight. A Tiger in the Zoo is written by Leslie Norris. George Leslie Norris was a prize winning Welsh poet and a short story writer. He is considered as the most important Welsh writer of the post war period, and his literary works have won many prizes. His famous works are Finding Gold, The Loud Winder, Phoenix Living Poet Series, Ransom. So here, Leslie Norris, the poet, talks about a tiger in the zoo, and he contrasts that tiger with a tiger in his natural habitat in the jungle or in the forest. This poem contrasts a tiger in the zoo with the tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from the zoo to the jungle and then back again to the zoo. So let us read the poem and uh, think about which stanzas, which verses talk about the tiger in the zoo and which ones talk about the tiger in the jungle. So let's read and find out. A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where the plump deer pass. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So, children, in this poem written by Leslie Norris, he explains the agony, that means the extreme suffering and helplessness of a caged tiger that lives in a zoo. The poet explains what his life could have been if he was a free animal. He has also tried to explain about the condition of animals that are caged by human beings for their own fun. The poem begins, he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. The poem begins with a description of a tiger that is very beautiful and is walking in his little cage. He has beautiful stripes on his skin and has velvet like soft paws. But the tiger is not at all happy. He is quite angry about being confined in the cage. The poet says that if the tiger was not confined to the zoo cage, he would have been hiding himself behind long grass near some water body. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. So, the poet says that if the tiger was not in the cage, he would have been in long grass, hiding in order to catch its prey, that is the deer, or any small animal. Also, he should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. That means he would have terrorized. That means his very appearance would have caused fear in the residents of the village around the forest. But the reality is totally opposite to this. Since he is confined in a cage, but he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. But since the tiger is confined in a cage which was made up of strong building material, he is very helpless. He cannot show his power to the visitors, and therefore he doesn't try to even terrorize them. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. The tiger is described as being powerless and agonized. That means he is in deep sorrow. He says that during the night, when he is alone, hearing the voice of the patrolling vehicles of police and looking at the stars, the cage, his life in the cage has totally changed the tiger's personality. The poet is trying to say that the animal, which is famous for its fearlessness and freedom, is confined and sad, and all this is because human beings want to look at him and derive pleasure by looking at him in a cage in the zoo. So what we need to do is be very sympathetic towards animals who are in the zoo and not want to tame them or keep them confined because they are not in their natural habitat. So the literary devices that are used in the poem, the rhyme scheme is, first of all, the last word is stripes, the next one is cage, so it does not rhyme. So stripes is A, cage is B, stripes, cage and quiet does not rhyme, so it is A, B, C, and then rage rhymes with cage, so it is A, B, C, B. The same way, in the next verse, shadow is A, grass is B, hole is C, and pass rhymes with grass. So the rhyme scheme of the entire poem is A, B, C, B. Now let us have a look at the different figures of speech in the poem. In the first verse, we have he stalks in his vivid stripes. Here, the consonant sound of sir, S and S is repeated, and that is alliteration. When we have any consonant sounds being repeated, it is called alliteration. Then the next one, the few steps of his cage, is metonymy. The few steps represents the smallness of the cage. That means he is unable to run fast or chase any animal because of the confines. The third one, on pads of velvet quiet. So in his quiet rage. So here the first figure of speech is metaphor. Is the softness of the tiger's paws is compared to, he says, on pads of velvet quiet. They are not actually velvet, but he compares them to velvet. So it is a metaphor. Then the word quiet, velvet quiet and quiet rage is repeated. So it is a repetition. The word quiet is repeated. Then when we go to transferred epithet, the word quiet, quiet rage is transferred from the tiger, and they say quiet, the rage is not, that means the anger is not quiet. They are talking about the tiger. So here it is a transferred epithet. The word is transferred from the tiger to rage, that is extreme anger. And synecdoche is parts, that is pads of velvet stand for the, it's not the pads, it is, they say the tiger is walking in on pads of velvet quiet. So it's not talking of the pads, they're talking of the tiger, and that is a part for the whole, which is synecdoche. Then he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass. That is also alliteration. The sound of sure, that is repeated in the word should, shadow. So sure is repeated, so that is alliteration. Then the rhyming words lurking and sliding. So ing and ing are repeated, and that is for poetic effect, so it is internal rhyme. The next line, near the water hole where the plump deer pass. That is, again we have alliteration. The sound of consonant P, plump, deer, pass. So perp and per is repeated in plump and pass, and were, water and where, water hole and where. So were and were. That is alliteration. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge. That is, now snarling, you can actually hear the sound of the tiger. So the figure of speech that expresses sound is onomatopoeia. Then again we have another alliteration. The sound of the consonant H, houses, that means snarling around houses in he and houses. Then metonymy. When we have the word houses represents the people, he should be snarling around houses. It is not the houses, but that is people living in the houses. So it is metonymy when one thing is represented by another. Then the internal rhyme is the rhyming words he and be is there in the line he should be, he should be. So he and be are the rhyming words. The next line we have bearing his white fangs, his claws. terrorizing the village. Terrorizing the village. In that we have synecdoche, that is bearing his fangs and claws. That stands for the tiger. So it is part for the whole. Then we also have exclamation mark. Here we have the exclamation mark. So that is exclamation. Then we have repetition. The word his white fangs, his claws. So this word is repeated, so it is repetition. But he is locked in the concrete cell. That is metonymy. The word concrete cell represents the cage of the tiger. His strength behind bars. Now, that is ironical. Now, what is irony? When the meaning is exactly opposite what is given here. His strength behind bars. What is the use of the tiger's strength if his strength is curtailed? So the meaning is exactly opposite, that even though the tiger is such a strong animal and people are afraid of him, there he is helpless inside the cage. And alliteration. The sound of the consonant B and B, behind and bars. Behind and bars. So we have bo and bo sound repeated. In the next one, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. So here the rhyming words are stalking and ignoring. So we have two, stalking and ignoring. Then let's go on to the next line. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars. So that is onomatopoeia. The word voice suggests sound, and it is also alliteration because the consonant sound of hears is repeated in he and hears, her and her is repeated, so it is alliteration. The word patrolling is transferred from the police to the cars. It's not the patrolling cars which are patrolling, it is the police who are patrolling, so it is a transferred epithet. Now then we go on to the last line. And stares with his brilliant eyes, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So here also we have alliteration, stares and stars. So stir sound is repeated. Then we also have synecdoche. Synecdoche is, it's not the eyes which are brilliant, it is the tiger. So the eyes, the word eyes stands for the tiger. So it is synecdoche. Then metaphor. There's a comparison between the eyes of the tiger and the stars. So the point of comparison is both are brilliant. The eyes as well as the stars. They are brilliant. So that is a metaphor. And the word brilliant is repeated here for eyes as well as stars. So that becomes repetition. So children, let us have a look at the question answers of the lesson. Describe the tigers. Find the words that describe the movements and actions of the tiger in the cage. So the tiger walks up and down quietly. He's very helpless and angry. He does not like to be caged in that cemented prison. He's not interested in the visitors. His strength is wasted. It is useless to him. Then find the words that describe the two places and arrange them in two columns. So here in the natural habitat, in the natural uh, first is images of the tiger in the cage. He takes very few steps. He walks on pads of velvet. Then he is inside a concrete cell and he is behind bars. And what is the image of the tiger in the wild? He lurks in the shadows. He bares his fangs and claws. He slides through long grass and he is at the edge of the jungle. Then the next one, notice the use of the word repeated in lines such as these. On pads of velvet quiet. Now the word quietly has been repeated. The tiger is walking very quietly, but he's also very angry and not, since he's not allowed to live in the forest, he belongs to the wild animals. He cannot do anything against the men who have put him there, and so he keeps that anger very tightly, like under control, and he stares at the brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Here the word brilliant has been repeated because the tiger has intense shining eyes, but he is helpless in the cage. He longs for freedom, but all he can do is stare at the stars which are visible in the night sky. Then so here there are two poems. One is about a tiger and another is about a panther. So you can read these two poems and enjoy them. Take a point of view for or against Rose. So this would be a topic for a debate. So you could write a few points, like, if you are for zoo people, like, having zoos and keeping cages and animals in them, or if you are against it. So you could note down a few points in your notebook and then write a couple of paragraphs or speak about this topic when we have a debate in class. So I hope you have understood the figures of speech, the poem, the central idea, and I would like you to write down all the question answers in your book. And when we have a chance, we'll surely have a debate on this topic. So thank you and have a nice day.